This is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome, everybody. So let's see who's on. Streaming status is bad. We are not receiving video data fast enough. What else is new? Hopefully you can still hear me. Let's see who's here. Looks like you guys have been chit-chatting. iPod, see who's here. Is first one here. Looks like you guys have been chit-chatting. My own channel here. All right, there. Fix that. RuneWolf 77, Carla Red Pill, Preliminal, Cupie, Sharon Gray, Bill M.E., Cupie. Yeah, actually, I'm on time. It's midnight here. Shari D, I believe the Glasses 2. That's an interesting name. I never know how to pronounce your name, iPod Baikal. Yeah. Yeah, I was hoping you'd explain it so I know too. All right. Kai Lucas Zachary is also in. Let's see what you guys have been talking about. 2 a.m. and frigid out. I don't know if any of you guys are on the East Coast around Chicago, but you have my condolences and sympathies. Was it minus 30 or something degrees below freezing over there? Ridiculous. No, degrees below zero. I don't even know how many degrees below freezing that is. All right, so anyways, I'm going to put you guys out of your misery, and you're curious about what the little beastie is at the thumbnail for the live stream. It is a Jaguarundi. Now, this is an interesting one for me because I do kind of remember these, but they were Jaguarundis for me. Jaguarundi. And it was spelled just like that. Jacarundi. But if you type that in now, it just defaults to Jaguarundi. There's a few mentions of Jaguarundi, but they're clearly now still referring to the same creature, which now apparently is a Jaguarundi. This one was mentioned by Jason Lush, and he also was mentioning the Malayan tapir, which we'll also get to. Okay, so I did have Jaguarundis going back a ways. They were just really small, weasel-y looking things for me. They're a cat now. They're twice the size of a house cat, and they're a lot more interesting and cat-like for me than they were. They have really interesting eyes now, too. You can still see that little bit of a weasel look to them, but there's just so many cats coming out of the woodwork now, different species. So, what is a Jaguarundi? Wild cat found from southern Texas to south central Argentina. Resembles a house cat but twice as large, with a flat face and rounded ears. Agile like a weasel, long tail like an otter, earning the nickname weasel cat or otter cat. Although generally considered the most common cat in the Western Hemisphere, a new study in the Scientific Journal finds that biologists and the public know very little about this enigmatic carnivore, and it may be more threatened than expected. So it's the most common cat in the Western Hemisphere, but we don't know anything about it. Hardly. Look at those eyes. Very neat little guy. So yeah, I think these are just another one that was like they start out kind of small and plain, and then they get weirder and weirder and weirder. But it was not a Jaguarundi for me before. I'm betting with this name, maybe it'll become more jaguar-like as time passes. All right, so next one was also found by the same person, which I forgot already. Jason Lush. Okay, I think I've covered this before, but they've gotten weirder. These Malayan tapirs. The white has gotten more and more extreme on the body. The nose is more stupid looking. It looks like it's got a weird t-shirt on or something. The offspring have this weird patterning, which has gotten a lot more extreme. It looks like a whole different species, the little one versus the big one. So I just wanted to bring that one up. So Jason Lush had mentioned this. Look at the skull on that, a very unusual way that the skull cap comes over, and then there's a big area of space around here by the nasal cavity. So he also brought up some other ones, but most of the other ones we have already covered. Just really weird looking creatures coming out of the woodwork here. I don't know if you guys have seen anteaters lately. Anteaters are another one for me that, you know, a long time ago, like 15 years ago, they were quite plain looking. They did have a long nose, but they were otherwise just not that weird. But now, I mean, look at that. Anteaters now are insane. I've been watching them the last few years. They don't look like a real animal even. I mean, look at that thing. They didn't used to have this giant stripe. They weren't this flat. Yeah, they had this long nose thing, but not all the rest of this. And it wasn't the nose. It was more like an ordinary head with a long nose. Now it's just like it doesn't have a head. It just has a nose. I mean, look, the head is shrunk away and the nose has gotten fatter. So it just is a nose now. It's just like one big nose. Well, anyways, a lot of the animals are changing like that, where they're just getting more ridiculous looking. I've noticed a number of them, the heads have just kind of shrunk away too. Weird. Okay, so here's another one. I just ran into this one while I was looking at the other ones. Apparently there's a hairy armadillo now. So this is one of them. It's all covered with hair. And it is known as the screaming hairy armadillo. And they also come in albino. Here's another one here, screaming hairy armadillo. So, of course, I had to find out what the scream sounded like. Now, I should have this set so you can hear it. So here's this albino screaming hairy armadillo. Not that screamy, but still, just thought it was interesting. Look at that thing. It's just really silly looking. So that's why it's so light colored, I guess, because it's an albino. All right. Next thing. All right. Oh, this one was brought up by, who came up with this one? It was mentioned by Thomas Larson, and I think this has probably been covered before, but I just wanted to bring it up because it's so weird. We talked about a few of the Bible changes, like how the tablets turned into tables. And apparently, Jesus was now hung on the tree instead of on the cross in a lot of translations. So if you look, some of them still say killed by hanging on a cross, but about half the translations say killed by hanging him on a tree now. So apparently he's not even on the cross in half of these translations. It's really weird. This is a Bible Hub, Acts 5:30. Anyway, I just wanted to mention it because it was so weird. All right. See what you guys are up to over here. Where is the screaming hairy armadillo found? Let's see. Good question. Now, these are not to be confused with the pink fairy armadillo, which is an older ME. The small screaming armadillo, that makes it sound like there'll be a bigger one later. Central and south parts of South America. So it squeals. Anyway, yeah, no hairy armadillos before. Okay, so next one. Talking about spellings, the spellings for the Philippines keeps changing. It's been driving me nuts for years. I keep memorizing it, and then it keeps changing. Whether there's an F or a PH, and when there's an F and when there's a PH, if there's two L's or one L, if there's two P's or one P. Ugh. So right now it's two P's. Before it was two L's and one P for a while. For a while it was PH for everything. Then it was PH for some things, but F for others, making me crazy. All right, so rat-eating plant discovered in Philippines. A carnivorous pitcher plant, that eats rats and insects has been discovered in the Philippines, named after Sir David Attenborough. This was actually discovered in 2009, supposedly. So here's the plant with a rat in it. I noticed there's got a lot bigger carnivorous plants in this timeline. There's a lot of really huge pitcher plants that eat large amounts of insects and sometimes even rats. So this one is apparently is more specifically for rats. They weren't real clear, but let's see. Has YouTube changed recently? It has a message icon and my font is really small. Huh. I don't know, it looks the same to me. I usually change my font on some of my computers to be larger if I'm using them for live stream, so I could read it without squinting. All right, so this rat-eating pitcher plant, that was another one by Bob Bobertson. And this one also is by Bob Bobertson. Okay, so what happened October 8, 1871? That was in the current timeline, that was the date of the Chicago fire, which is somewhat famous. But what's weird, the Great Fire of Chicago kills 200 people and destroys 7 square miles of buildings. But at the same time in Wisconsin, a forest fire kills 1,200 and somewhere between 1,200 and 2,500 people, making it the deadliest wildfire in recorded history. Never heard of it. So 200 people die, and it's famous for how long? Forever, all the way till now. But 1,200 people also died on the same day. This is the same day, October 8, 1871. Now, it just seems to me like this Chicago fire would get completely forgotten about due to this Wisconsin fire. So, I don't know. It's just really weird. And Bob Bobertson noticed that one. Let's see. Late, but so is Eva. I don't know. You guys keep talking like I came an hour late or something. I don't know. Did time changes happen somewhere else, maybe? Because the time hasn't changed here. And I'm on the same time I'm always on. So I don't know. I don't remember flamingos having black under the wings. There's a whole bunch of kinds of flamingos now. Not to mention that they can fly. They've got those weird short-legged flamingos that look dorky. So you almost have to ask, well, which flamingo are we talking about? Yeah, I don't remember the black. if they have them under the wings, I don't remember that either. But they do have those little stumpy-legged flamingos. See, there's another kind there. Now, it used to be they would just say it depended how much, what kind of food source they had. But we now definitely have all these weird... Let's see if I can find those short-legged ones. I saw it on National Geographic or some kind of TV one. Oh, I think these are it. These might be it. Of course, now I can't find it. Let's see if it was Bolivian flamingos. Nope, no, those still have long legs. They had some kind of little stumpy-legged ones on TV recently, but I haven't figured out what species those are yet. All right. This is another one. I've just been hearing about this one the last few months. Okay, so this is another one they're saying was like basically covered up and now suddenly is coming to light. I'm really suspicious about the whole, a lot of things they're saying, oh, that was just whitewashed and hidden, and now suddenly we're exposing it. But I don't really see what's so different about the current era that we would suddenly come clean about a whole bunch of hidden stuff from the past. So I really suspect that's just another excuse the ME is using to change history. But apparently now in 1921, mobs of whites attacked black residents in Greenwood and Tulsa, Oklahoma. So basically they came and they destroyed 35 blocks of the district of the wealthiest black community in the United States. 800 people were admitted to hospitals. 6,000 black residents were arrested and detained. 36 dead, at least. But people are saying more like 100 to 300. So, I mean, obviously nobody ever heard of this until recently, as best I can tell. In 1996, 75 years after the riot, a bipartisan group in the state legislature authorized formation of the Oklahoma Commission to study the Tulsa Race Riot. Members were appointed to investigate events, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I just don't think this was in my old timeline. You know, you heard about Watts and other riots, and those were the big riots. Now, suddenly, this was like the worst riot ever, and it was all hidden. It just happens to be coming out now. So this is another one from Bob Bobertson. And this is all the Bob Bobertson ones, basically, all together, pretty much. And so this is just kind of one of those logo change, name change ones. But Abercrombie and Fitch. I actually do remember the same as Bob Bobertson. I remember it being Abercrombie and Finch with an Finch like that, like the ant, like the bird. Let's see if I can find a image of this thing. It was just famous kind of clothing designer person, but yeah, here. Okay, I remember this being Finch, Finch, like a bird. And I kind of not noticed the change, but when Bob brought it up, I'm like, yep, I do remember it being Finch. So, another name change one. Okay, and now this one is from Mr. Snowcat. Another commenter on the channel brought this cat breed to my attention. Now, supposedly this cat breed is related to Persians. I've noticed a number of the cat breeds have gotten more extreme lately. Look at the face on that cat. Oriental short hair. The ears have gotten really large on these. And supposedly they are related to Siamese, but I never saw a Siamese that ears covered like half the face. They're like bat ears. And the face has gotten really thin. I mean, they were always like that, but they didn't have these giant bat ears. Look at this thing. I mean, that looks like something out of like Lord of the Rings. It doesn't look like a cat to me. It's just really weird looking cat breed. I've never, I have noticed that some of the hairless cats now are looking really, really wrinkly. Look at that thing. Look at, it's got more ear down here. It's really got a weird look. Bengals are one that have changed a lot, and the hairless ones. So apparently they're going for these ears things or something. Look at that one. Look at that thing. I mean, I really just have been seeing this the last year with these bat ears on these cats. This is crazy looking. Okay, anyways. So that one was from Mr. Snowcat. Yeah, this is a weird looking beast. All right, this one is from Christina Wemmel, another commenter. Good find. I mean, it's not technically an ME, but I thought it was pretty weird. So there's been a lot of talk lately about the whole gut bacteria, importance of different bacteria in the gut. We started to hear something about gut bacteria maybe being related to Alzheimer's and things like that. Now, this was always like the most basic fact about the brain was that it was protected from bacteria due to the blood-brain border would block bacteria. If you got any bacteria in your brain, you were in deep caca. Well, apparently now there are bacteria in your brain, and they happen to be gut bacteria that somehow have burrowed up the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is a nerve that goes from your gut all the way up your spine and into your head. I don't know if you remember, and I don't know if it still happened on this timeline, but when George Bush was president, the younger one, there was an incident where he fell and hit his head on the coffee table while he was drinking beer. And there was this ridiculous story that he had choked on a pretzel, which had triggered his vagus nerve and caused a reflexive passing out, causing him to fall and hit his head, which just seemed very unlikely. Much more likely that he drank a few too many beers and maybe tripped. You know, he is a human after all. But anyways, I don't know if that incident still happened here. I probably should look it up. But anyway, that was the first I'd heard of this whole vagus nerve thing. I had not heard of it before. Long ago, I had not heard of it. But it has been around for a while. So I guess apparently now you have bacteria in your brain, and they're gut bacteria. And so apparently she had seen these unknown objects, specks and blobs in her images that weren't supposed to be there and didn't seem to relate to synapses. And so she just ignored them until finally she figured out that they were bacteria. Now, I just can't really see how everybody just ignored bacteria in the brain all this time, even though they would, when you had brain illness and fevers and meningitis, they would look for bacteria in your brain, but you would think that they would then see them all the time if they were looking. So, I don't know, this whole thing just sounds like bull crap to me, that they could just not see the bacteria all this time. But, so apparently, yes, you have it in there. I would not be surprised that in another year or two, this would have been known for 10 years. So keep your eye on this whole story here. Bill me. Late, but so is Eva. Yeah, see, I don't get it. I'm not late. It's 12 o'clock here, the same time I'm always on. Did you guys change your time? Was there a time change on your end? Because if your time didn't change and my time didn't change, I can't be an hour late. I'm not an hour late. I am, or whatever you think I'm late. I started exactly at 12, the same time I always do. So I'm a little confused why people are saying that I was on late. I mean, in the past, I have sometimes been on late as late as 5 minutes. But today, I was not late. So, yeah, it's 12:26 now, but I've been on for 26 minutes. So I started on time. So 7:26 in Sydney. So I don't know if you guys are saying it's an hour difference, then you must have changed timelines or time zones, or there's something really fishy going on, because been no time zone change here. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Okay, this one is from iPod Baikal. I guess that's how I'm saying it until somebody corrects me. Looking at Antarctica. Now, I've mentioned this before, but it's been a while, and it's more extreme now. Let's see if I can find a good map. Nope. Okay, this is what I'm seeing is happening to Antarctica. The outline of Antarctica is staying basically the same, but Antarctica used to be, the outline was the land. Now they're saying that part of the outline are these ice shelves. So basically, the actual land is getting less and less, and it's getting replaced by just ice shelves. They didn't used to show the ice shelves because it wasn't land. For the same reason they don't show any ice at the North Pole, because it's not land. So for some reason now they have this special exception where they show these ice shelves, but they didn't used to show that as part of the land. So now you look at this map, this is getting really pinched in here, with the land part is really pinched in. So also iPod Baikal was also saying that there's some weird stuff out on this peninsula thing here, where there's like a weird little square and stuff. I just wasn't really watching it enough to really, the details of it I wasn't aware of enough to really know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all, because everything is constantly changing. So another weird little bump out on Antarctica. See here, last time I checked this, this base of the peninsula was fatter than the later parts of the tentacle. So basically, it's getting pinched off here, and that's maybe 6 months ago when I last noticed it. So and then Mandela Effect had mentioned quite some time ago that he noticed that on some world maps, they're not showing Antarctica. So I'm wondering if this is starting to go away now. I wonder if that's what happened to Arctica originally. I wish I was watching. I mean, I guess I just always assumed that Arctica, the North Pole, was up there as normal, and so I wasn't checking the map to see. But now we know that, at least some of us know, as we have seen, that the North Pole went away. The land is gone. Is that happening now to the South Pole? Let's keep a sharp eye on it. Because not long ago, they always showed Antarctica down here. But now, how many maps are showing it? About half of them, maybe? That one, no. That one, no. That one, no. No, no, yes. Yes, no, yes. Yes, no, yes, no. Well, yeah, I think that's a yes. I mean, about half of them are only showing it now. And it was all of them before. So, very interesting. Okay, the other one that iPod Baikal was talking about was Argentina. Let's see if I can find one that shows it really well. That one doesn't. Maybe here. Okay, Argentina, we've been kind of watching this for a few years. Chile used to be a lot fatter. I mean, it was a skinny country, but it wasn't this skinny. It didn't have all this, I don't know, what do you call it, fringing or encroachment of ocean here. This has gotten more extreme. It wasn't broken off. The whole end now is broken off. And it's peeled around to the, what is that, north-south? The east quite a bit over here. And now it's just basically broken off, and part of Argentina is separate. So there's like an end here, then there's some of Chile, and then there's some water, and then there's some Argentina. That wasn't the case like a year ago when we were watching it. So let's see. What did iPod have to say? Yeah, he had mentioned this. I don't know if we're talking about the same thing. I mean, this also is all chewed up in here along the coastline. That wasn't the case either. It looks like there's big bites missing. This thing here between Argentina and Uruguay, this encroachment of the water was not there either. There's probably a million other changes, but those are just the ones I've noticed. All right, another, lobsters are getting real big in this timeline, like really big. The reality's starting to shop it around on Reddit, and I saw this one recently. So here's a banana and this lobster claw for sale. Look at the shape of that claw. It doesn't look like anything I really remember. I just remember things more like that. They weren't heavy duty like that. Looks like a prehistoric beast. So that's, 2-3 times the size of this banana, just one big claw. So really weird. It's midnight in Cali. Yeah, I'm in there, Cali, so I do know the time, hopefully, in Cali. It's 12:33 here, so it's a half hour past midnight. She was, but not an hour. You're saying I was 45 minutes late? According to me, I started like right at 12. So I don't know. Let me see if my time is even off. What time is it in California? What time is it in California? 12:33. Yeah, so my clock on my computer is within 1 minute, and so I couldn't have been more than like a minute late. Well, I don't know what's going on with time. The ice fog. Yeah, I've covered ice fog. I think it was 1 or 2 weeks ago. Now I'm freaked out. The video is just short of 12 minutes long. Started at 8:57. Watched 9 minutes. Great Lakes and Canada borders have changed. Yeah, I've covered that one before. The Great Lakes have dipped down. The East Coast bottom of the United States has kind of sucked in. So now you've got this big finger sticking off, which is Maine and all that. The California side, the bottom has sucked in a little bit, but it's not nearly as bad as the East Coast. Surprised the MSM haven't jumped all over this crying climate change as the villain. I don't think they can, because you can't blame disappearing land on the climate change. You can blame ice disappearing on it, but it's land that's going away. Even look how far east South America is. Yeah, I was going to say, look at how far south it is. It's almost touching friggin' Antarctica now. It must be getting really cold down there. I mean, those were tropical countries in my old timeline, but I'm sure that they're chilly on the end, pardon the pun. Chile is going to get Chile. Let's see. Did I have a map up? No. So yeah, I do think that South America has squeaked a little further east lately as well. What was I want to say? It looks a little higher to me too. It's like as it gets pulled over, it's getting pulled up. See if I can see a map that shows it good. This kind of shows it. I just remember it kind of being lower down here and looking like it fit in there more. Now it looks like it have to come down to fit in there. Also, the lineup of the bottom here, I think, was closer to the lineup of this coastline before. But so our Antarctica is now, it's just right here. So it must be really cold down there in this timeline, because it's so close to Antarctica, which is cold. Let's see if we can find one. See, look here. Look at, it's so close now. You've got this little finger coming up to meet. That was not the case before. You didn't originally. This finger has been growing, and then this water here has been dipping in. Again, we see that pattern. Protected bays are being developed here, with Cuba coming into and then South America going east, and then Cuba filling the whole this whole area here. Originally, the Mediterranean Sea didn't have this part here. This part is now meeting up with these seas over here in Asia. You see the water coming in over here. You see Japan getting close to the coastline here and and causing this. There's this sea now, this disputed sea that didn't used to be there. Here, just under the Koreas, this water's coming in. Now we're seeing the islands here, making another protected area in here. There was another one, Australia. You have to make it bigger, but there's some water coming in through Australia too. North America, this whole big fat finger coming down off the bottom of California is getting longer and longer, and it's creating a protected waterway in here. And I'm wondering if maybe down the line all these lakes up in Canada are going to start connecting more and more with the Great Lakes. Also, this region here, this has opened up quite a bit. When I first did my sketch of this region about 2.5 years ago, it was just a little river here. There wasn't this giant mouth region. So anyway, that seems to be a really strong pattern with these protected waterways here. Okay. More weird animals. There's a whole bunch of cats coming in, I think I mentioned. Look at this cute one with these big eyes. The margay. Somewhere it said, the cutest little rainforest cat you've never heard of. One of the favorite Emmy statements. You never heard of, you never knew about. How did they know I never knew about it? Well, it's new, that's why. Such a cute little guy. Dwells in the rainforests of Central and South America. They are able to do all of their hunting in trees. Round ears, blah, blah. They're just super, super cute. This timeline loves these big, fat eyes, too. Small face, big, fat eyes. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that one also. The MA definitely has been still slowing down for me the last few weeks or so. I've been saying this. There have been a few changes. It's not stopped, but it just does not seem to be quite as mind-blowing as it has been. Part of it's probably just that I'm getting used to it, but okay, this one, I almost put this one up as the thumbnail. I don't know why. I guess I like cats better. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I'm going to assume that it's like carabao, maribou stork. Okay, so it's got this huge neck thing. It's totally disgusting looking. I don't think you could possibly have ever seen one of those and forgotten about it on a bird. It's not something that you would forget. Look at that thing. So apparently it's, I don't know, supposed to attract the females or something. This stork, look at that. It has like a, what was it, 18-foot wingspan? It was some kind of ridiculous. I mean, here it looks like something got cut off its neck. Apparently they attack other birds too. Here it is attacking a flamingo. Nasty little bastards. So it's supposed to be a scavenger, but it looks like it doesn't really wait for the scavenging all the time. Sometimes it goes ahead and attacks. So 18-foot wingspan on these beasts. It's a big bird. A really big bird. There was one image this one, I almost put this image up. What the hell is that thing on the back of the neck now, too? Ugh. Birds are growing all these creepy warts and stuff in this timeline. One ugly looking bird. See, just a few of them are getting that orange thing. What was the name of that alligator? Gharial, that's it. These gharials with the thing noses. They're another one that's been growing creepy bumps. When it first came out, these gharials just had one little bump on the end. But some of them now have these hideous, pustule, disease-looking noses. And I guess that's just natural in this timeline. And like the jaw down here is even thinner than when I first saw it. Look at that. It looks like it's got disease. But that's how they are in this timeline. Look at the nose is even thinner now than what it was. The head is like disappearing. Again, there's another pattern where the head is kind of sinking into the body. And then you just get this snout only. So that's what's happened to these gharials. There was for sure no gharials until a couple of years ago. So only, I have not seen them walking sort of upright like this before either. That's interesting. Look at how thin that is. It's getting more ridiculous. Anyway, I can go on forever about that. I just noticed that when I was looking through all the animals. All right. Oh, the other thing about these creepy maribou storks, a lot of the new animals have really weird, gross, or creepy habits. Weird mating habits, social structures. One of the patterns I'm seeing is some of the old and some of the new animals are doing this thing where they poop and pee on their own legs. And today I saw that they have a word for it now. It's called urohydrosis. And it means defecating on your own feet and legs. Supposedly do it to cool down their bodies. But, you know, the weird thing is that these birds, these maribou storks, they often live near the water. So why wouldn't you just dunk your feet in the water if you live near the water? You're so lazy you can't walk over to the water, so you just go pee on your legs and poop on it. That is so gross. Some things about this timeline I could live without. Garial male bulbous nasal appendage, or GARA. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, this urohydrosis thing, I definitely could live without that. Okay. So that's some of the more important changes. These are probably some of the less important changes I've noticed. One is really weird. I was just rewatching The Empire Strikes Back, and I don't know if I was living in a cave, but I saw that movie a lot of times when I was a kid. And apparently in this timeline, and I don't know if I'm the only one, because my timeline, I think, was really kind of a prudish stick-in-the-mud timeline compared to a lot of timelines. And my timeline did not have where Leia strolls up and kisses Luke like hard on the lips, like a real kiss, just to spite Han Solo. That did not happen in my timeline. And it would have been a huge thing because she's his sister, so they would have been totally talking about that. Now, interestingly, there was a book where that happened, and I always look back in that book and went, oop, they screwed up, because later she turned out to be the sister, so that makes that book look stupid. But it was only in the book. It was not in the movies. Absolutely not in the movies in my timeline. I mean, if I could remember it out of the book, I could sure as hell remember it out of a movie that I saw many, many times, and I only read the book once. And obviously the books aren't as good as the movies anyway. So anyway, that did not happen. I don't know about you guys if you've seen that one, but oops. Now it looks like it's not loading new comments. So anyway, all I have to say is I know that she did not kiss him in my original version of the movie. And maybe it's been there for a while. I don't know. But it didn't happen in mine. There's some other weird sex things in videos also that and shows that just weren't in my timeline. Did you cover the lobster that does not die? I think I've covered a number of those immortal creatures in the past. There's a lot of them now. They grow forever. And that's why the lobsters are getting so big, because in this timeline they grow forever. Snakes, lobsters. There's a whole crap load of animals that are basically functionally immortal. They don't die, and many of them keep growing until something kills them. So they're like, oh, it's so sad you killed 100-year-old lobster to eat it. They didn't used to be like that, though. Pistol shrimps shoot 10,000-degree bubbles at enemies. You know, those whole mantis shrimp, pistol shrimp, I think I've mentioned them a few times. They're so ridiculous. The colors and everything, yes. This stream used to come on 1 a.m. Central Time for me. Dead GPK. Oh, I don't get it, though. Time hasn't changed here. We haven't had a time change. If you hadn't had a time change, then there should be no way that we're not in the same time as we were last week. So I don't know. I don't know. I think there's definitely been some weird, funny business about the time changes, because over the last even 15 years, it's like they keep changing it when they change the time. And then I would drive over to Arizona, and sometimes it would have the same time, and sometimes it wouldn't have the same time. And sometimes they were on our timeline, and sometimes they weren't. Sometimes they would. There was a while where they would sometimes have our same time, but they had a different daylight savings time schedule than we did. And it's been just crazy whackdoodle. I don't know. I have watched a 2-hour and 20-minute show that took almost 3 hours to watch. Yeah, I don't know. There's something going on where people are shifting timelines. Times are shifting. 10 minutes late. Nope, I was not 10 minutes late. I absolutely was no more than 1 minute late. Basically, I saw it said 12, and then I went over and I clicked on here, and then I clicked on start streaming, which is not visible right now, obviously. So I don't know. There's something weird. That's why when QP was on there saying, "Why am I so slow?" I'm like, what the heck? I haven't even scheduled to start yet. Australia is no longer down under. See, now that's a kind of a weird thing. Australia used to be kind of down under the Earth, but then again, Antarctica was further down under. Australia is still down under other countries, just not by much anymore. I mean, Australia used to be the lowest, not including Antarctica. Now, technically, Antarctica should have been down under because it was super under. So, I don't know. It's interesting how these nicknames get started, and they're strangely flexible across the timelines. Gulf of Mexico will soon be encased in lake. Yeah, there's another thing. Just watch for the weird fresh waters, because now we have this splitting of the waters where the saline waters can sink, and then it can be all fresh on the top. I think what we're going to start to get is more fresh waters along the top. Something strange happened on Lone's live show last night. For a few seconds, he suddenly moved in hyperspeed. Then afterwards, he said, "What just happened?" Huh. I don't know. So he thought something was... Wonder what he experienced from his perspective. New Zealand keeps moving. Yeah, I think it's sneaking back over closer to Australia again. The tip of the bottom of Argentina aligned with the bottom of Australia. All right, let's look at that again. Yeah, well, it definitely doesn't align now. I mean, of course, they're going to say, oh, there's different map things and stuff. But yeah, it's nowhere near now, the bottom tip of Australia. That whole thing is tricky for me. You know, South America had more water in between Antarctica and of course, so did Australia. Basically, the amount of ocean compared to the amount of land was a lot bigger for me. So stuff could float out. Australia could be way out here by itself in the ocean with a whole bunch of ocean around because there was plenty of water. That can't happen now. It can't be anywhere like it was before because there's not enough water to do that. Africa looks so small in this timeline. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? For me, now what I remember, Africa has been sort of coming up under Europe. Okay, so what I remember is basically Europe was about the size of Russia. So, I mean, Europe is tiny now. So just imagine Europe was way over here, and then Russia and China were over here. Europe was way bigger. And then Africa was sort of under it, like down here, more by itself. So it's a little bit more similar to what we've got with North and South America, where you had Europe and then you had Africa under it. And Africa was way down here, and there was still tons of water around it. So what I'm seeing is Africa is coming up, and it's squishing over and mashing up against us, Europe, and Europe is just deflating. It's just shrinking down, or these other areas are getting larger. I'm not really sure exactly, but compared to the surrounding regions now, Europe is so tiny. It freaks me out. It is so little. It used to be, the size of Russia, and them used to be about the same. So, I mean, it's just nothing. I mean, Europe was way bigger than the United States. Well, I don't know what's going on with that. All right, let's see. I'm starving, need to go eat something. I've been really hungry the last week or so, like really hungry. What? I said that even before What If I Told You said it. Yeah, just the last like 3-4 days. My God, I'm hungry. And I'm not losing any weight either. I'm trying to fight it. Saw a woman had served in the Civil War. They hid their gender to fight aside men. One thing I've really noticed about this timeline is women had a lot more influence in history. They're also just a lot more violent. They fought more. In my old timeline, you almost never heard about women doing anything really violent, like flipping out and killing people with a knife or shooting people. I mean, you just didn't. I mean, it was just almost unheard of. Serial killer women. You just didn't see that. This timeline has a lot of them, and it is not now at all unusual to hear of some woman doing some violent stabbings and stuff like that. You just didn't. Women are just more like men now. That's all I can say. Agilia, new cat-like species. Yep. Can't hard keep up with them. Saw something that looked like Stitch from Lilo and Stitch, but I don't know what the heck. Yeah, I'll need a little more info on that one. But yeah, a lot of the new animals look like characters out of cartoons, characters out of, what's that video game that came out? Pokemon. A lot of Pokemon have shown up in real life. Male pigeons. Oh, male pigeons produce milk now? I thought it was just the female pigeons. Ah, that's interesting. Pigeons produce. Oh, that's interesting. That whole crop milk thing, it was just the females. The others being flamingos and male emperor penguins. It was not male penguins producing the crop milk before. That is interesting. Can humans drink pigeon milk? Do male pigeons produce milk? The pigeon is one of only 3 bird species, the others being flamingo and male emperor penguins known to produce milk. In pigeons, the milk starts to be produced in the crop of the parent birds 2 days before eggs hatch. Okay, so yes, the males do produce milk in the pigeons now. Okay, interesting. That's a bit of a morph because I don't recall seeing anything about males doing it. And here they make a point of saying that the male, not pigeons, but penguins produce it. So interesting. That's interesting. Joseph Karyogia, good find. I just read an article saying the shoe-billed stork was the third widest wingspan. That can't be possible if this was what has 18 feet now. I don't know. See, this one is the longest. 18 feet was the wingspan, lengthwise. So there's length, there's width, and there's the biggest bird, and then there's this and that, and there's the heaviest bird, and so it gets complicated now. Maribou describe a certain type of down feather. Yes, that is the only meaning of maribou I knew was that feather, that kind of feather that is a maribou. I've never heard of it being from a stork, though. It was just the feather. More cat-manned animals and less birds, please. Well, you know, the cat ones, the bird ones are just way more wacky. So, you know, if you saw that before, you would remember it. Like, if you saw that giant thing on its neck, you know, and I suspect a lot of these start as just kind of simple, unassuming animals. And then they just get weirder and weirder and weirder. Because I've been seeing that. The new animals come in, they're a little bit weird. And then they just grow more horns, bigger snouts, more weird markings. They just get weirder and weirder. So, you know, maribou stork, it probably just started as a normal-looking bird, and then it starts growing this appendage. It starts growing things on the back of its head. It gets bigger and bigger. The other thing that's huge now are those sunfish. I don't know if I had a video of those up. Sunfish are huge now. They get to be 2 tons. I mean, they were a big fish before, but now, lately, suddenly, they're the largest bony fish in the ocean. So sunfish are new for me anyways. They just showed up a few years ago. It was a huge, really, all right, so that kiss thing all happened in your timeline. Yep. I don't know, I just come from a really prudish timeline. They just hardly had any. It would have been like a huge freaking scandal. Now, people laughed about it being in the book. Danger, internet has been finicky since last night. Yesterday, my computer was all terrible again, but luckily it seems to be holding up. It's just funny because, you know, I have the same computer and I can have horrible problems one month and then the next month it is fine. And actually have not had many problems, knock on wood, for the last month or two. So I don't know if it's because the ME is settling down or what. I really don't know. Okay, let's see. All right, this one. This is another one. I don't know if it's just me. Liam Hemsworth. For me, it was Helmsworth. Helmsworth. Liam Helmsworth. I don't know when it turned into Hemsworth. It sounds weird to me. I think some other people remember it. Let me see. Search instead for Liam Helmsworth. Liam Helmsworth pranks Miley Cyrus. See, some other people do remember it. Then in the article, it's back to Hemsworth. 9 best Liam Helmsworth images. Miley Cyrus and Liam Helmsworth are married. Yeah, so other people do remember it. Anyway, I swear it was Helmsworth for me. He's losing an L. All right, here's another weird animal. Mexican mole lizard. Doom, doom, doom. All right, so you've got this lizard that has front feet, but like no back feet. It's the Mexican mole lizard.
The human brain is the most exquisite, complex thing we know of.
Doink. Skip ad. All right, so it's got these feet up here. See if this one will walk for me. It's got these feet here, but then there's nothing over here. You kind of expect there to be a couple feet in the back, but they're not there. So I've never seen anything that had like these front feet, but then there's no back feet. This thing showed up on Reddit recently. There's his little feet. See, there's nothing in the back. So weird. There's the whole dude, his little feet, and then nothing. He's like a worm snake lizard. That is just a trip. Anyway, definitely did not have that thing in my old timeline. Let's give the info here. Commonly known as the 5-toed worm lizard, or simply Bipes, a species of Amphisbaenian, which is endemic to Baja California Peninsula. So it's endemic to, it's not far from here. It is one of 4 species of amphibians that have legs. They are pink worm-like lizards. Their skin is closely segmented to give a corrugated appearance, like earthworms. Blunt heads allow them to burrow into the soils. Oh, just weird. I'm going to look up these amphibians just to see what else is on there. Amphisbaenian. Ooh. A group of usually legless squamates. That one looks kind of blue. Close up at the head of Renura. Anyway, so cool. That's all I have to say. See if I ever got my functioning Same here with my computer. There are timelines when the fan doesn't work and some it works fine. Yeah, I don't know. I can't figure it out. That yeah, there's times when I don't, either the internet. I think it's actually often the internet that is the problem. I had a CPU switch operating systems and switch back only once, but I knew it. Thought someone hacked me. Yeah, it's when it goes back that you're like, you know, I can understand, okay, my computer's dying, it's old, but then suddenly it's fine for 3 months again. Doesn't make any sense. That's why I don't get a new one now when it's acting up, because 3 out of 4 times it'll just suddenly be fine again later, whatever it is doing. Goldfish are getting huge too. Yep. So another huge meteor is supposed to fly by or soon, or just did. You know, there's like meteor showers every 5 minutes in this timeline, too. First, it was just Perseids and even Perseids weren't that much of a show, except for supposedly once and rarely, but then it just seemed like it was always another good show. And now there's like 4, 5, even like 10 different shows. Fireballs are all in different colors. You see them often. Anybody remember New Zealand as one island, not two? Yes, it was one island for me. It's almost 3 islands now. My refrigerator in this timeline is noticeably louder than a month ago. So it's either the ME or your refrigerator is getting non-functional. As sometimes mine pulses before I have a problem with it. It's really hard to tell sometimes. If it magically fixes itself, then you'll know for sure. Work snake centipede. Work snake centipede. You want me to look that one up? Work snake centipede. Watch what happens when a rattlesnake meets a centipede. I did see that one where he ate that big yucky centipede. Centipedes are extra gross on this timeline. And they're tough. There were no centipedes that could burst out of a stomach before. A dead horn-nosed viper with a centipede head sticking out of its ruptured abdomen. Scientists think it's possible the centipede quite literally eviscerated the snake from the inside out. Yeah, I guess they have a little bit stronger mouths in this timeline. Okay, you guys talking about the Beavis and Butthead change. That one I remember discussed quite some time ago, that Beavis and Butthead, the Butthead now has a dash. And I agree, it didn't have that for me before. Butthead. It just doesn't even make sense that Butthead would have a dash. Why even have that on there? I'm going to put it in the old way. And you're going to find that it wants to put the dash in for you. Butthead. Nope. 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 And you know, there's so few dashes in this timeline. It's weird to see one show up there all of a sudden. Majority of people are spelling it incorrect, i.e. the old way. Yep. Yep. And see, if they were always in that timeline, then they would know that there's supposed to be a dash. I mean, when you're selling stuff, you don't want to put it in wrong, because people will you won't get caught in the search engine if you put it in wrong. So you generally are pretty careful to get the spelling right. Stole the dash of the Kit Kat bar. Yep. All right. This one, Lake Baikal. Frozen Baikal. Siberia. This timeline, we have water that freezes totally clear. It's really neat. They were saying originally that it was just really fresh water. This is completely surreal. This guy's walking on this lake, and you could see all the way to the bottom of it. It's completely clear. Now, I don't get why there isn't a bunch of crap on top of the water. But look, he can see all the way down. I mean, that would just almost freak you out. You get like afraid of heights walking across the river or the lake. Just a trip. Let's see if there's more on this one. Can't seem to get rid of this thing. On my old timeline, we did not have lakes that froze crystal clear like that. Super clear. Look at that. That's just amazing. How is it so clean on the top? It should be full of crap. I mean, there's going to be stuff blowing onto the lake. Okay, there's a little bit of normal ice right there. Look at that. Just nope. That's just a big nope. In my timeline, only boiled water could make this kind of ice. In my timeline, no water made that ice. People in this timeline sure have a lot of cleft in the chin now. Let's just look at skull. Yeah, I've definitely seen that it's wider out here. It's gotten wider, and you've got more jawline, but that's kind of an old one. The jawline getting really fat was first, and then it's spread out over here. I have not noticed anything really obvious in people's faces, though. Maybe it's just a little too subtle for me to see right now. I wish I'd get a little bit more. I've got a weak chin, so it would be nice if... that does look weird. I don't remember ever seeing like anything with that much cleft before. You've got these huge wings out the side. That skull looks really weird. Genuine antique human skull from a real human skeleton. See this one again. These wings out the side look really weird to me. Yeah, look at the cleft. You're right. There is quite a bit. I don't know if you're seeing it on real people. That's very observant. It's definitely developing on the images of the skulls here. I've got a little bit more to discuss on that one when I get to it. Just some of the anatomy changes. Just up here is getting just so much more prominent now. Look at that one. Look at that. So far out the sides. It sticks out so high up here on that one. See, a lot of the stuff I'm noticing lately are just, you know, a little bit more enhancements of MEs that we already pretty much knew about. The cleft in here is just getting a little deeper. This is interesting here, this pinched in spot. Now, I don't remember it looking like a V right here. And then here it is barely attached, and then it wings out over here. I don't remember it looking like that. Let's just look at some side views. Oh, wait, you know what? I kind of should have looked at this. That's interesting. Real human skull is two-faced person. This can't be real here. Unlawful games. Real human skull. Now, this is not a baby skull, so this person must have lived with two faces. That's interesting. I don't recall anyone having survived such a birth defect in my old timeline. Few skulls on display at the Mutter Museum. That was not at the Mutter Museum before. I know all the cool stuff that was at the Mutter Museum, which is a museum of weird macabre stuff, and that was not at it. Unless they're going to say that it is brand new edition, I'm not buying it. All right. Let's look at side views real quick here. Okay. This one is a little more how I remember it. This is really long here. I think that this indent is getting bigger. Look at the extremities. In order to push this out, this is coming way out over here. This is really long here. Just getting really stretched out over here. This little bump thing, yeah, there's been quite a shift in here where this is just really pushing out. You can really see it over there. So this thing has gotten really long. Not as much in this one, but in some of them it's gotten really long. That one, it had shown a little bump right there. Most of these are not showing it, but I bet you're going to see more of a bumps in there. So this is getting really thin here too. This bone is definitely thinner than last time I looked at it. So we've got this and this long thin. This more pushed out here. I'm starting to really see this in my face now too. My face used to just be kind of fat, but I've got these cheekbones now. Still weird to me to see the bones in the back of the eye socket. Yep. Something is going on in the skull part. Everybody I know has issues with their teeth for months. You know, my teeth on the bottom are all getting squinched up. I think my face is getting more narrow now. And there's less room for all those molars and stuff since I still have all mine. Because, I mean, I'm adult. Usually when you're an adult, the teeth actually get worn down and have more space between them. But with this squishing of the face, I just had one tooth that was a little sideways and I did not have trouble with my teeth line. But now I've got like 4 teeth squished sideways. And you can see that they're uneven now, which is really irritating. So anyway, I've known the last few years a lot of people have had rotten teeth taken out. I haven't had any pains though. These teeth, they're turning, but I mean it must be supernaturally because physically I don't feel any pain in my teeth. All right. And in the past I have, so I'm doing pretty good lately. Okay, these are a few just kind of observations that I've been noticing. One thing, it's an old ME about the pulse, but we were talking about pulse rates. And one thing that's interesting now is that your beats per minute, the normal range is a lot more. I mean, it used to be 60 to 80 was normal. But it's now like 60 to 100, which is a really large range. But athletes can have heart rate as low as 30 to 40 now. And that would be like dead people in my old timeline. And also athletes can have enlarged hearts, and it is due to excessive exercise and is not considered dangerous. My old timeline, an enlarged heart meant you were going to be very sick and die soon. So, but anyway, we were talking about heart rates, and I actually was trying to find mine on my wrist here, and I'd found it. I don't know, it's weird. Some days I just can't freaking find it, and other days it's really easy. And I couldn't find it, and my friend Dave was here, so I said, "Well, find your pulse." And he goes on and on about how it's right here. He's right here in the middle, right where all the cords go up. And the bone splits, and then the cords come right in, you know, and he just kept going. He doesn't know about the ME. And interestingly, he usually gets all the updates, but I guess he didn't get the downloads on this one because he was telling me so extensively how he knew exactly where the pulse was. And, you know, he's been in the military and stuff, so he has, medical training, just not extensive, but he has basic medical training. So he goes on and on. I go, well, okay, find your pulse then, because I can't find it there, and I'm having trouble finding it. And he's all poking around, and he couldn't find it. And I'm like, well, what's your heart rate? And I was bugging him, and then he just couldn't find his freaking pulse. He finally ends up clasping his whole wrist, and then he just squeezed his wrist so hard that he could feel his pulse that way. And that's how we took his pulse, with him squishing the crap out of his wrist. But it's interesting because he didn't say anything about not being able to find it. I'm like, well, are you dead? You can't find your pulse. He didn't even want to talk about it. He just fixed it by squishing the crap out of his wrist. So anyways, but very interesting because, you know, he doesn't into the ME. He does. I tried to talk to him about it once and he just like ran out of the room. And he gets most of the downloads, but he went on and on about that friggin' pulse. I was just laughing. You just imagine he's sitting over there going, I was wondering, I'm like, how is he going to get out of this one? He swears that's where you get your pulse, and he can't find his pulse. I'm like, how are you going to get out of it? But that sneaky boy, he figured a way out of it. So let's see. All right, so the other thing, I have discussed this in the past, I think. About 6-8 months ago, one of the things that I really noticed, and it was just over the course of about 3 weeks, was that my eyes sunk way back into my head. My eyes used to really kind of stick out. They were kind of like, I don't know, protruding. They were definitely very much like Caucasian white girl eyes. They just kind of bug-eyed look. And they sunk way back in. And this other girl I know who's also Caucasian, her eyes also around that same time sunk way back in. And she's interesting because she's got a whole bunch of new old tattoos too. Her that I knew before had one little tat on her ankle, and now she's got a whole bunch of tats all on her back of her head and all this stuff. And her eyes sunk back, but to her, it's always been that way. Those are not new tats for her. But anyway, so her and I now, we have these same sunken in eyes. Now, it's been a few years since I wore makeup. And, I've talked about one of the things I've really noticed just in the last month is that I really just don't feel as feminine looking in my face. And it's just a little bit hard on my sense of identity because when I look in there, I just doesn't really look like a female anymore like it did. I think overall my face is probably a little better looking. I have a little bit more cheekbones here. It's a little narrower there. The eye sinking in, I think it doesn't matter a lot either way. But I wanted to do some makeup and just kind of feel a little more feminine. But the thing is now, with my eyes this way, it really changed how I can do my makeup. Because before I could just outline the edges of my eye, and then you could just put a little thing there and it makes your eye look bigger. But now all of that area is hidden back inside the eye socket. So I can't put any eyeliner out here because it just, once I kind of open my eyes, it's gone. It's hidden. I never had that problem before. So they're calling these kind of eyes where your eye is sunk back in, they're calling it hooded eyes or partially hooded eyes. And that just wasn't a thing in my old timeline. It was Caucasians had bugged out eyes and Asian people didn't. So they had that Asian eye, but white people didn't have it. But a lot of people in this timeline that are white have Asian-y looking eyes now. So it's just interesting. But I actually had to go online and read how to put my makeup on and the issues with the hooded eyes. There was no hooded eyes in my old timeline, not for white people. So it's just what I do with my eyeliner and stuff is different now. Also, there's more of an obvious line right here for putting the blush. It used to be kind of a guess game. I never really was exactly sure where to put blush before, but now there's definitely like a crease right here. I know right where to put it. There's no question. So that's easier. I think my nose and mouth are pretty much the same, though. There's not really any big difference there, but it's just interesting because it's like I have this whole new face almost, or like half of my face is new now. And what I am to do with it is different than it was before. Right. Okay, this is an interesting story. You probably have seen it, but it's kind of a ridiculous story. Have you heard about the 3-year-old boy who said a bear kept him alive at night? All right, so the story is this 3-year-old was missing for 3 days. Was it 3 days or 2 days? 2 days? That was cold. I mean, he's pretty young, out in North Carolina, missing for 2 days. Said he spent his time with a bear. So he's saying this bear kept him warm and protected him. Of course, the bear wasn't there when they found him, but this whole story is just weird. There's just been so many stories about animals being all non-animal-like, is all I can say. So this boy is claiming that the bear hung out with him for 2 days. Didn't eat him. He's only 3. Didn't eat him, but hung out with him and kept him safe. He said he had a friend in the woods that was a bear. I don't know. I don't know what to make of these stories. Of course, some people are going to say maybe he made it up or something. But anyways, found in good health. I don't know. I think maybe we're just getting inoculated more and more with this idea of animals doing unexpected things. What about Shiva at CERN? Has there been a change on what it is standing on? Oh yeah, Unimundi put out a video recently on that. Let me take a look at that thing again. You know, I think for me, I don't think so. Now, he said that the chairs and stuff have changed. That could be. I have not been watching that one. There might be a change on this one. I'm just not sure on this one. I just haven't been really watching it. It's interesting because now I put up Shiva at CERN and almost every image is showing the bottom area. And before it didn't. It would show it like this all the time. This was standard. So there may well be a change on there. I'm just not sure. That sounds like one of Unimundi's channels, actually. But, I don't know. There's been a lot of changes. I have not seen a lot of huge changes lately on that, but it's really hard to keep your brain cells on every aspect of everything, I have to say. So, yeah, maybe. I've had trouble finding my pulses, too. Yeah, for a while I could stick my finger right in there, and I'd find it really easily. But this last week, see, I'm just not feeling it. And then I would feel it, and then I would just move my hand a tiny bit, and it would be gone again. QP, thanks. Says I look better. I have a little makeup on, too, so that does help some. Sunday at 4:30, the night sky from the moon was deep electric blue. I wouldn't be surprised. It's definitely sometimes blue, it's gray, it's red. The only thing it's not anymore is black. And that's another story. You know, I went out to the desert. It's gray out there, too. Nowadays, anyway. The laughing Buddha is looking more interesting to me. Yep. The laughing Buddha, I think we've covered that one, Jashira, before. The laughing Buddha is not a Buddha anymore. It is actually Budai, B-U-D-A-I. Comes from China. Common misconception that it is a Buddha, but it is not. The real Buddha is skinny and not laughing in this timeline. There are no fat Buddhas in this lifetime. There are only fat Budais in this timeline. So another ME for me. I've covered that one in the past. I'm imagining that my hair is now growing thick and full, and I'm much younger. You know, it could happen. It could happen. Just bit by bit, just a few more hairs and a few more hairs. You probably would barely notice. 5 years later, you'll have more hair, and you'll just be bit by bit. Dark will stand. Thanks for the $5. I really appreciate that. iPod Bogle remembers Fat Buddha. Yep. Now it's Fat Budai. That one actually really makes me laugh. Because I've researched in the past why Buddha was fat. And he was fat. And they said it was because they represented him as fat because it was kind of a compliment in the old days and all the famous rich people or well-known people were represented as fat. That was the excuse they gave. But now he never was fat. All right, this one, I can't remember if I covered this one, but I think it's still changing. And now I'm seeing more and more of them like this. I think I've mentioned this before, but it's gotten more extreme. The bald eagle did not used to have a white tail. This is the American bald eagle. Now, other things about eagles have changed. They didn't used to have these pants-like feathers all on their talons. They just had like scaly talons. But a lot of birds have these like pants now. They look like they're wearing pants. But we did not have this white on our bald eagles before. They're saying at current timeline that these eagles grow these white tails when they're about 4 or 5, last I checked. So you'll see some eagles have it and some don't. The younger ones don't have it. But in my old timeline, there were no white ones. You look at that, it just looks wrong. I think the tail is a lot bigger now, too, than it was. But that does not look right with that white down there. I mean, see, this sticking down, that does not look right. That is just not right. Look at that. Just completely wrong for me. I think this is a little bit older ME, but I'm just seeing more and more images of the white now. The white on the tail. Just weird. So the other thing they're saying, let's see if I can find that. Bald eagle. The other thing I noticed just recently, they were saying a species pair. I'm see if I can find that word, species pair. Now, I just looked at this like 2 days ago. And it had a species pair. Well, weird. Apparently, that species pair yammer is gone. Dang it. Yeah, they were saying it formed a species pair with the... oh, there it is. Species pair. Okay. The American bald eagle is a sea eagle. Okay, it was not a sea eagle in my old timeline. You just find it in the forest and stuff. But here it is a sea eagle, but I guess it goes on lakes too. And they migrate way up into like the Arctic. And so you'll see them hanging out with polar bears now. They did not used to do that. They were not sea eagles. They didn't hang out with polar bears, and they didn't migrate. They would just hunker down and live where they live. They didn't migrate, but here they do. But this is a new one. It has known subspecies and forms a species pair with the white-tailed eagle. This is a new statement here. Last time I looked up, there was no species pair. Well, 2 days ago there was, but I mean like 6 months ago there wasn't. So these white-tailed eagles apparently are all over Europe. And they look very similar to the bald eagles, except for their head is not white. So they've got the white tail in the same color, and the head is very similar shape in the talons, but they're just not white-headed is all. So I looked up what the heck is a species pair, and they're saying that they're like really similar breeds that that split recently in history. So apparently Europe has basically a very similar to us eagle. I can't say if that white-tailed eagle is common. I mean, I don't know if that was there before or not, but I don't think that our bald eagles had white tails before. Crazy World of Normal. Helen's taken off. Thanks for coming. Let's shut down CERN and see what happens. Didn't they already shut down CERN? I thought they'd shut it down already for a while. They're revamping it. Yep, I'd only see the one from Dark Wolf's Den. I'm freaking out. I listened to Lone's broadcast from 9 hours ago, and I don't remember that time speed up thing when I watched it originally. So what part of the broadcast does that come in? Is it like, can you give me the timestamp for it? I'm curious about that now. Autumn Nicole's froze her hot water. Yeah, you gotta run that hot water because it's not hot in the whole pipe. The whole pipe will get cold. It's only hot over at the hot water heater part. Yeah, I mean, a lot of Americans just aren't used to dealing with that level of cold. I always remember the smiling, laughing, fat Buddha. Yeah, now it's Fat Buddha. And Buddha is serious and he's skinny. Buddha. I had kind of noticed that they were getting skinnier. I thought that the newer Buddhas were being made skinnier and skinnier. But if you look back, even all the old statues are skinny now. I thought it was more of a political correctness thing, you know. This is another thing I've really noticed is the old Buddhas, see if I can get this thing to come up. They're doing this weird thing with the clothing. So it makes him look like he has a fat stomach, but it's just the clothing. My old timeline, there were no Buddhas that had that. It's kind of like hiding the fact that the stomach is not actually fat anymore. So this is the Buddha here. See, like the huge ears too. None of my old statues had these giant pendulous ears. Now both the Buddha and the Buddha have these, and they're getting bigger. This is bigger than the last time I looked. Look at that crap. The huge freaking, look at that one. My God, the ears are massive now. And I noticed the ears getting really big on Shiva also. I don't know what to say about these big fat ears, but they're really getting big now. See, look at the ears on that one. Buddha did not have giant tumors on the ear last I checked. The heck, it's really getting crazy. So Buddha has giant tumor ears now. That is so wrong. So wrong. Okay, now here's the skinny one. So this Buddha. Buddha's getting big ears too, but they're not tumors. They're just dangly. At least not yet. Look at, see, they're starting to flap out the sides too. What is up with all that? Buddha. All right, now this is Buddha too, and look at the ears on that thing. That's a pretty new change. I was watching the ears get long, but they didn't have these tumors on the end of them before. And they weren't that big. They just weren't that big. That's, what the heck? I mean, what's the point of that? There was some kind of story. Let me see. Buddha. What was the story? Big ears. I'm going to have to learn this story because Buddha, giant ears. Why are ears of Buddha stretched? They're more than stretched. Some of them are like tumors. The Buddha, a former prince, was born in Lumbini and raised in Kapilvastu, where the culture and tradition was for men to display their wealth and prosperity on their ears. Must have adorned large and heavy ear jewelry made of precious metals and stones, and this may have resulted in having stretched ears alongside the rich men of that period. It was likely he would have worn similar kind of ear ornaments from his childhood till adulthood as sign of his wealth. Though the prince stopped wearing them when he left the palace to become an ascetic, while in search for the ultimate answer, his earlobes remained stretched. This may also be taken as Buddha's renunciation of the physical world. Other interpretations. The ears are part of Buddhist iconography, not just Buddha, but bodhisattvas who have also attained some form of enlightenment. Large ears are taken as auspicious because they signify wisdom and compassion. Now, in this timeline, ears continue to grow indefinitely as you age, so it makes more sense that big ears would be a sign of wisdom. My old timeline, ears did not continuously grow for the entire lifespan. He has long ears because he's the enlightened one. He has the ability to hear the sound of the world. Okay, this is the yam yam that I read last time here. I don't remember this earrings thing, but I do remember this big ears wisdom thing. Anyways, keep an eye on that. Those ears are huge. God. It's like these whole, what do you call those, when they put those big plates in the ears? It's like it's spreading into the past now. That's crazy. Apparently they're making certain a lot larger, more tunnels. Yeah, whatever. The storyline changes any second. All right, so anyways, Buddha's massive ears. How big are they going to get? That's ridiculous. If you look at Shiva at CERN, Shiva at CERN's got big ears too. I can't stop looking at those stupid looking ears. They've gotten like, look at that. They've gotten a lot bigger since last. They were just a little long last time I saw them. They didn't look like, look at that one. For God's sakes. Come on. It's like they're getting bigger. Just me sitting here watching it. I swear to God, I find a bigger and bigger one every second. Oh my gosh. Okay. If they get much bigger, it's going to be like they're elephants. Okay, this one is from Jay Emblin. It's kind of an interesting segue, but so apparently snakes have two man parts. They have two. And then the female have two receptacles for them also. That a lot of things have weird mating habits in this timeline, and so having multiple parts of the same thing, like copies, is getting really common. So there they are. Whatever. Apparently alligators have like this always erect slingshot thing that slings out and goes back in. There's just a whole bunch of weird storylines developing with all that. I mean, you should have heard of that before. I certainly have not until just recently. Okay, this last one was from... See, that one was covered. Yeah. What If I Told You is the name of the commenter on my channel. I had been kind of looking over around Mount Rushmore. I didn't quite catch this, and I think this one is pretty new. Let's see if we can get a decent image. The space here between Lincoln and his cohorts is getting larger. There's a pretty big gulf there. They used to be much more squished together. So you've got these three all kind of one way, and then him kind of another way now. That's interesting. I think it's pretty new also. Look at the space now here. Still no word on what this thing on the side of Lincoln's head is. I've been waiting forever. I hope I find that out before I die. I'm really curious to see what that comes into, but... Yeah, QP's they got two. They call them hemipenes. But that's not the only creatures that have it. There's other ones that have it. Corkscrew ones. And then the female has two receptacles for it too, so weird. They're saying it makes it easier that they can mate from either side. Eva been shifting more than she thinks. Maybe. Yeah, part of it I think is that, more spelling changes, more logo changes. It's gotten where I'm just like, psh, whatever. But it's still been kind of slow because maybe it's kicked up this last week. I just haven't noticed all of them, but there were those changes that Unimundi saw on the Shiva. I've been looking at my indicators, and I just hadn't seen a lot. There's one I noticed about a week ago. Let's see if I can find that one. But basically, I've been looking at these for weeks now, and I have not seen much change. I think I saw a little bit of change in Michelangelo. Let me see if I can find that one. Yeah, Michelangelo is one of them. Sistine Chapel. It takes forever to load. I don't know why, but My computer doesn't want to load. This golden stuff up here. I noticed this last week. The golden threads on these characters here, they weren't all bright gold like that. They were just dull. So that's a big change. Very bright on there. God has sunk down another couple molecules below. That's very gradual shift there. So that's one thing I did notice. Not much change here except for this gap. I don't remember this thing on the top of the head being quite this prominent here. It seemed like this changed. It's brighter and bigger now. This little, I mean, it was like a temp, obviously a temp structure before. Now it almost kind of doesn't look temp. That one I think has changed recently. Like last week maybe. And I think that Washington has peeled out another hair's breadth out. See, I think his face is a little bit more out of the frame again. There. See, just a little bit. Not a huge difference. Anyway, kind of subtle stuff. But that's all I've really noticed. See, unfortunately, my images here did not include the lower part. So I haven't noticed any other huge changes, though. I keep thinking, I don't know why I keep wanting to say that there's going to be changes here. But not quite seeing it. So anyway, it just seems like overall, though, my indicator photos, there's been not that many changes. Just little changes, but not to the extent. I used to be like this change and this change and this was this. And I just feel like the last few weeks that there have it. Now, maybe those items are done changing. I don't know. I suspect, though, that it is running a little slow right now. Bible change. Moses doesn't throw down the cane. Yeah, I heard that on one of the other channels. No, you know, the details on the Bible, I'm less likely to comment on that because I didn't know those details as well as I could have. So I'm going to take you guys as experts' word on a lot of that. I mean, there's certain things I knew, but I just was not really well versed in all that stuff. Next, it will be a female president at Mount Rushmore. You know, I mean, really, it'll start like this, though. It won't just suddenly be, they'll say, oh, it was a common misconception that such and such character was so-and-so, but really, it's not well known, but that character was originally supposed to be and someone else. And then you'll notice that it does kind of look like that other person. Or maybe it was originally that person and then someone changed the carving a little bit or something. That's how it usually goes. It's sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. Well, anyways, let's see. 159. Columbus didn't discover North America. Yeah, I mean, you know, my old timeline, they just mumble about the Vikings. Like maybe they could have made it. They were good sailors. Now they were first here. So the whole Columbus thing is stupid. And Columbus just got like on the islands and stuff too. He didn't even get to North America. So when they say Columbus discovered America, he didn't discover our America. Oh, whole thing's weird. Also, the Sistine, you're saying the woman behind God is Eve watching him create Adam. Is that what they're saying? That chick that he's got his arm around is supposed to be Eve? Now, there's been a lot of talk lately hitting the Reddit airwaves about how Michelangelo hated painting the Sistine Chapel. He never wanted to do it, and it wasn't his deal, and yap. So maybe that'll fit into the narrative. Okay, well, there's this chick here that he's got his arm around. So is that supposed to be Eve now or something? I mean, all of these used to be baby cherubs. He did not have his arm around a half-naked female with their boobs hanging out in my old timeline. But, you know, his butt wasn't hanging out either. Sistine Chapel. Gods. Somebody else found this one, and it was so ridiculously hilarious. But, yeah, God's butt hangs out now. This is his bare butt of God. And more butt shows every month that passes. At first, it was just a little slit of butt. Then it was all the cheeks. Now you're starting to see part of his hip. I think his whole shirt's going to come off eventually or something. I don't know. So, yeah, that they would not allow a naked butt of God on the Sistine Chapel in my old timeline. Sorry, no. Yeah, God was higher than man. That's been slowly changing on the other part of it there. Higher than man and no women. Yeah, it was just cherubs, little babies. They slowly changed, and, you know, the characters just slowly morphed. It's just creepy how that happens. That person pointing upwards wasn't there for me. Chapel. God and man. I still keep calling it God and Man. It used to be called God and Man in my timeline 2.5 years ago. Let's see. That person pointing up. All right, so these hands and all this crap here, those were all further down. I've been watching them get closer and closer. All these pillars here were not encroaching on the painting before. It's all getting squished. The paintings are all getting squished together. So I can't say if these were changed or not. I know that they did not come this much into the painting before. See, look, even there's gold. That gold stuff's coming into the painting. So that's been changing. The feet and part of the cloth is cut off now. That was not the case before. So yeah, God was way out here and way up here. So the first thing that happened was God came down to be about level with man. Then it got real close to man, and then he sunk. He's been sinking just bit by bit by bit now. Just really subtle. Now also, this used to be blue back here, and they didn't have this weird, looks like a mistake in the painting or something here with this weird gray streak. It was a blue sky background back here. Also, I think this is getting really black in here too. It used to, I don't remember this black stain on the ground. It's like encroaching. This hand was not up right here. It was way hidden down. I don't know, that whole thing is just, oh yeah, God's getting like this weird tummy thing. Somebody else mentioned this flap. He's wearing like a bib now. God was not wearing a bib before. Anyway, just there's changes on that, but those are a little bit older ones. The bib one is kind of newer. This gold thing is newer. He sunk another inch. That's newer. That's all I can see. These are about a month old, these pillar things in the way. Anyways, well, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, so I think I'm going to call it a quits here for today. Jesus. Oh, yeah, and that it was pinkish. Yeah, that was another one. God, who brought that one up? That was a good find, that it was getting pinkish with the bib. God is sitting in a brain. Look, that one, you know, I have to say I didn't really study this one much until 2.5 years ago when it started to be an ME and they were talking about it. So I know it really well since 2.5 years ago to now, but I only kind of knew it before. So I can't tell you on the details what it was like 10 years ago. I mean, I had a general sense of it, but it's just interesting how many things I know so much more now because of the Emmy, because I've been watching them. The Statue of Liberty torch got damaged and replaced in 1985. Got damaged and replaced. How did it get damaged? That whole thing is totally different for me. The torch never looked like that to me. The torch for me was made out of that same kind of metal as the rest of the statue. And the flame was very high and straight. In this timeline, it's like it's being burnt out. It's pushed, it's way smaller, and it's pushed to the side. It wasn't gold in my timeline. It was just that same stuff. You know, it was more cage-like and up. And it was that same stuff that the rest of the statue is, just that green patina stuff. And yeah, they didn't replace the torch in my timeline. It was fine. Now, I remember them just kind of cleaning and repairing it, but there wasn't anything really obvious that they were going to be doing to it. Okay, so they replaced the rusting iron armature bars, which joined the copper skin to the statue's internal skeleton, with stainless steel bars. The flame and upper portion of the torch had been severely damaged by water and was replaced with an exact replica of Bartholdi's original torch. The torch was gilded according to Bartholdi's original plans. See, this whole bulbous blob of flame was just not in my timeline. It was more of a cage-like, you could see through it, flame thing. And it was much higher and straight up. All right, so this is interesting because they're saying they replaced it, so people are going to hear that, and if it looks different than they remember, they're going to say, oh, well, it's because they replaced it. But what they replaced it's supposed to be an exact replica of the original torch. But it's interesting, they're talking about the gold as if it's kind of a new thing. New torch shines atop Miss Liberty. Yeah, no. Bomb-scarred torch gets a new home. Bomb-scarred torch. I thought they said it was damaged by water and weather. Now it's bomb-scarred. The copper torch had been on display inside the statue's pedestal after replica replaced it in 1985. So apparently now the new one, the original, was bomb-scarred. Curious if it has the gold on it, the original one. All right, so that's the original one. Okay, so it looks like the original one was just more, it was more cage-like. Now, mine was cage-like, but it wasn't sealed like this. It didn't have this white, whatever it is they're using to seal it. It was kind of open air kind of a deal. And it didn't look like somebody was sticking their finger out either. All right, so it doesn't look like in pre-1985 it was all... It was maybe... It looks like maybe it had gold-colored glass or some kind of paneling in it. And then the current one is just painted gold, but supposedly since 1985. Okay, so there's the current one, which is a different look. I don't know. I don't really care for it personally, but anyway, yeah, neither one of these is right for me. None of them looks like it. And that just, I don't know, when did that change? I think maybe like 2-3 years ago. The black tom incident unstabilized the arm, so people can't climb through it. Whatever. There was no black tom for me, but I guess in this timeline, that all makes sense. I don't know. Anyways, I think it's time for me to cut on out. Getting late, getting sleepy. Is the torch gold? Bill Emmy, it's gold apparently from what I see since 1985 when they replaced the torch. They put a gold skin on it, and they're saying that was the original plan. Now here is the original torch of this timeline, which looks to me like it's not gold plated, but it had like some kind of gold paneling in it. What I don't understand is if gold plate is the original design, then why doesn't the original one have the original design? So it's kind of a fuzzy logic there, but it got damaged with the fight with Stay Puft guy. Yeah, that's it. They'll probably be the next thing is the Stay Puft disaster of 1973 or something. All right. Anyways, I'm going to shove off. But thank you guys for coming. I do appreciate it. See if I can get over here and shut this off properly. Oh, seems like all right, I'll do it on the other one. Sometimes it won't let me shut down on this one, though. Anyways, all right, I think we're good to go. All right, so thanks everybody for coming as usual. I do appreciate it. I know it's not great timing for a lot of you, but late at night is the only time I really get peace and quiet, so it's pretty much why I do it then. So thank you anyways. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.